I'm Kelly Folsom, and I'm wondering if you have ever wanted to start plein air painting, going outside and painting outdoors, but you feel super overwhelmed, scared to do it perhaps, and don't know where to start and don't know what supplies you need. If these things are stopping you today, I'm going to be sharing with you my go-to materials, must-have materials, and also the bare bones, bare basics that you will need to get started in plein air painting. I have been a professional artist for 17 years, and while I look like Little Miss Priss, I love, love, love plein air painting, and I have been plein air painting all of that time. I recommend plein air painting because it is going to hone your skills so quickly. So it's so worth ditching the fear and the overwhelm and getting out there and starting to paint from life out in nature. The reason why it improves your painting skills so rapidly is because of your observation. It improves your observational skills, painting from life. It teaches you how to paint under a timeline, under a deadline, because the light moves so rapidly throughout the day. So for each painting that you do, you really only have about 2 hours to work on that painting. Please don't make the mistake of going out into the field and trying to work on a big landscape painting and try to work on it for 4 or 6 hours. It's not going to go good. So my recommendation is that you start smaller, that you set a timer for yourself of no more than 2 hours, because the light is going to move and change because the light we're painting by is by sunlight. The only difference for this might be is if it's an overcast day, which is more cool, diffused light. However, the sun is still moving, so the angles of your light shapes and your shadow shapes are still going to change. I recently was in a workshop, a cityscape painting workshop, and a lot of the artists there would pick a scene and they would work on the same painting for the whole day. Are you kidding me? Do not do that, because the light is totally changed from this time you start the painting in the morning till the time you end the painting in the afternoon. So enough said about that. This is why I firmly believe in landscape painting. It has helped me improve my observational painting skills throughout the years, and I have painted thousands, yes, thousands of landscape paintings in plein air, or plein air, however you say it. French and plein air just means out in the open air. So without further ado, let's get to what you came here for, which is my supplies. First things first, I just have a very simple backpack. I'm going to have links for you on all of these things down below. This is just a very simple, rugged canvas backpack. For me, by the time all is said and done, my goal personally is to not have a pack that weighs more than 10 or 12 pounds, because you don't want to be, if you're like me, you don't want to be lugging around a 50-pound backpack. I am not a camper. I am not a hiker. I am not doing plein air paintings to, go and do this rugged lifestyle. I'm doing them to improve my skills, and to get ideas for paintings. Let me adjust this camera right quick. So if you are similar to me and you don't want to be burdened and weighed down with a 50-pound backpack, then this video is going to be for you. So first things first, you need a backpack that is small enough and comfortable enough for you to use. So that's first things first. The next thing is going to be, what are you going to paint with? So I use a Pochade. This is my, my Pochade attaches to a tripod. This is my preferred tripod. It is the Dolica Proline tripod. I'm just going to be setting some of this up as I go over things with you. I've had this tripod for a number of years. It's got paint all over it. I use this both indoor and outdoor, actually. And the nice thing about this Dolica one is that it has a really wide wingspan. So you can actually make the legs go even wider. I also like that it has this little hook on the bottom. If it's windy outside and you need to weigh down the tripod just to stabilize it further. It also has little hooks, kind of little spikes on the bottom that you can unscrew where you can get more stability into the earth if you need that. Now, when I lived in Oklahoma, I definitely need that because the winds would blow so fast and so hard. And before I had this tripod and this pochade and some other pochades, I was trying to use the French easels. And that wind would come through and just knock over the French easel. Not to mention those French easels are so, so heavy. So this is my personally preferred little tripod, a little pochade box. This is the Gorilla Thumb Box, paint box, I think is what it's called. And I've had this also for a number of years. Inside, this is where it holds your panels, okay? This thumb box size will only hold a 6" by 8" panel horizontally or an 8" by 10" vertical painting. Now, you might think, oh, I don't want to be that limited, and I have some other pochades listed for you if you want more variety in your sizes. And for me, over the years, I've just found that 6 by 8 and 8 by 10 is perfect. It's a perfect size to do a study, a sketch outdoors, and with the amount of time that I have to work. And then if I get back into the studio and I want to enlarge that or make it bigger, I totally can. The other reason why I like this little box is because you also don't have to use the pochade with it. You can actually just set this in your lap or find some place to set it up at, and it has a little wooden tray palette built in on the inside. I'll show you how I attach this palette paper, and then it has room for your paints underneath. And I'm also going to tell you the paints that personally I would start out with if I were getting started plein air painting. Okay, so the next thing is well, I'll mention the other two. I have a few other pochades recommended. One is the Sienna pochade. Just keep in mind the Sienna pochade is going to be a bit heavier. But it does hold more variety of sizes. So that is going to increase the weight of your bag by a few pounds. I think theirs are 5 pounds and this one's like 2.5 pounds. The other one is the Yugo Pochade, which is also very lightweight. It does not have the tray for your paints underneath, which is fine. You can just carry those in a Ziploc baggie. So for the palette, I prefer the Jack Richardson Gray Matters paper palette. I buy this in the smaller size. I think it is 6" by 9". And the reason why you want something gray like this is because you can better judge your colors that you're mixing, especially outside if it's sunny, you guys. You do not want a palette that is going to be glaring the sunlight back into your eyeballs as you're trying to paint. And you never want to paint in direct sunlight, so I'll show you what I do about that too. But this gray palette, it's a middle tone. There's also wonderful value tips and color mixing tips in here as well. So highly recommend that. And I simply just attach that with the blue painter's tape. And then whenever I'm done with that day's painting, I just peel this off and throw it away. And the next time I go out, I'll show you. Next time I go out, I just put a new one on. So that's what it looks like whenever you have your panel in there. This will hold, I believe, a canvas as well if you don't want to do panels. It looks like you would have to look up the inches. It looks like maybe it only holds about 1/2 inch thick. Okay, next up, let's see, we're going to put this while we're talking about something else. And if you're liking this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps my channel out a lot. So what do you do with your finished paintings once you're done for the day, especially if you're doing more than one painting? I think this is more important if you're doing multiple paintings. But what do you do with all those wet paintings? So my favorite comes from Raymar. This, you can buy this in a multi-size pack, or you can buy these in individual packs. Usually whenever I go out plein air painting, I'm usually doing more than one painting, but sometimes not. This is going to be loud Velcro. This is very, very lightweight, by the way, because it's really made out of, I don't know what this stuff is called. Um, it's just kind of a plastic, corrugated thing. And Velcro, and this holds, how many does this hold? This is 6x8 size. And it holds 2 panels each in each slot. So there's 6, this holds up to 12 paintings, okay, of panels. And so again, these are very sturdy. They're also very lightweight. I've had this one for probably a decade. And it just makes my life so much easier whenever I am painting multiple paintings. And then I have the one in the 8x10 size. And this one holds fewer. You can really buy these in any size from the Raymar website. This one holds 6 8x10s. Okay, so that's how you can transport your wet paintings. There's other ones available out on the market. I think Yugo has some. They're quite a bit pricier though. And there's all kinds of different wet panel carriers you can try out. However, those Raymar ones have just been my favorite for years and years and years. Okay, next thing in terms of that sun I was talking about. Okay, oh, let me just put this, I want to show you how easy this is. Just to hook on the pochade. Okay, there you go. So that is on, that is locked in place. I've got it a little bit uneven, but just to illustrate to you all how simple and easy this is to set up. Okay, and then you've got your paints right underneath. I just tend to hold my brushes. I don't have, they make other stuff that you can attach to this. But again, I like to keep things as lightweight and as simple as possible. So I don't like to have like a bunch of different add-ons and attachments and whatnot. Now, it is important that you either set up somewhere in the shade, first of all, to protect yourself from the sun. I'm very fair skinned. I get burned super easy. So of course, sunscreen and a big hat is important to me as well. But this umbrella, this comes from Soho. This is a travel size umbrella. You just saw me put it together. It comes apart in 2 pieces. And there it is. There's our Soho Urban Artist umbrella. What I love about this is that you can adjust the angles. So there's a little button here and you can adjust the angles. This is UV protection. Okay, and this just attaches to my tripod. So this little piece right here, okay, it's kind of like a little clamp. This is really sturdy. I think I've only had to replace this once due to, wear or wind damage or wear and tear over the last, 14 years that I've been painting plein air. So that just attaches to my tripod, and then you can angle it like any other way that you need to angle it. This is going to allow you to be protected from the sun and also ensure that you are not painting in full sun. That's the main thing to keep in mind. If you're painting out in full sun, first of all of the light hitting your palette is going to be glaring back at you. You are also going to make all of your values and colors too light and too cool because that warm yellow sun is hitting your painting and you are misjudging values and misjudging color. This happened to me so many times in the beginning. And so you really do want to invest in one of these, or you're going to have to always try to find like a shady spot somewhere where you know that where you know that the shade is going to last. And sometimes that can be really hard to do. So these are the panels I prefer, which is the ampersand gesso board museum series. We've covered that. The palette paper, painter's tape. I take a roll of Viva paper towels with me. You also are going to want to have like a small travel leak proof mineral spirits holder for your mineral spirits or your terpenoid, to rinse out your brushes, especially if you're out there painting for quite a while. If you're only going out and doing like one painting in 2 hours and then you're going to go back home, you don't really need this. You can keep this at home and you can simplify by doing that. Okay, I do always take my medium, a smaller bottle. I just have the big bottle right now, but my preferred medium for oils is liquid light gel. Okay, and this is just my go-to. I use it all the time. This does speed the drying of your oil paints. It'll also speed the drying of the paint inside your brushes. So again, if you know you're going to be out in the field more than a couple of hours, be sure to take this with you just so that you don't ruin your brushes. And when it comes to brushes, I forgot to grab some. My favorites, as I've mentioned before, are the Silver Grand Prix. These are hog hair brushes, either in the filberts or the flats. I like sizes 2, 4, 6, especially for smaller plein air cities. You don't really need anything bigger than that. I would say actually size 0, 2, 4, 6, because sometimes you need something smaller. The next brush I would recommend, and if you're a beginner, you may want to start with this brush. This is also good for acrylic painting as well. These are the Bristlon brushes. Again, filberts or flats. And I usually just take with me about 4 or 5 brushes. Kind of a funny thing I do is I just put my brushes inside the tube and put them in my backpack. Again, so I just like to keep things simple as possible. It's not going to mess up your brushes, so don't worry about it. If you made it this far, be sure to let me know any ahas or anything like that that you've had already before we go into colors. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to give you some tips of where to start plein air painting if you're just now getting started as a beginner. Safe places that you can go, with bathrooms as well, which is always ideal. Okay, the next thing I like to have is a small portable stool. This one, I really need to replace it. I've literally had this for 17 years. And it definitely looks like it. So these are I like these little triangle ones, and this also has a hook on it. So you can either put this inside your backpack or you can hook it on the outside of your backpack. But again, I like to shoot for everything that is as lightweight as possible. And these are just like little camping stools. You don't need anything specifically made for artists, but basically it's a tripod leg, and then this seat cover goes on top. But I would say that's not a must if you're okay with standing and painting. But if you like to sit and paint, you definitely want to get a small portable stool, because there's not always going to be places for you to sit that has the view that you would like to paint. And speaking of view, I know a lot of people recommend viewfinders, and I definitely had viewfinders whenever I was first starting out. As an artist, I just feel like this is kind of an unnecessary tool, especially with our iPhones. It is so easy, to take a photo and crop that scene. You can use your camera as your viewfinder. I would just recommend, though, that you do not paint from the photo. Okay, you're out there doing landscape plein air painting for the purpose of studying light and shadow and studying forms. and really taking that in with your own eyeballs because the camera tends to distort things and flatten things. Okay, so you don't want to be out there in plein air in nature and be looking at your phone. No, 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 no. Part of the beauty of plein air painting is that connection with nature, and your eye perceives color, perceives shades and tones very, very differently from a camera. Okay, so the other option that I often do is I'll just make like a round, I'll close one eye and I'll make like a round circle and I'll kind of look around for my view. You can take a sketchbook and pencil out with you if you want to. I personally I've never done that. So to each his own or her own. I've just never done that. I mean, I have done it and it always just feels kind of like an unnecessary step for me. Um, Not that I don't need to sketch or do a thumbnail sketch. I know that there is value in doing a thumbnail sketch for most people. For me, I just want to get right to it and let the chips fall where they may. And if I get my painting started and I don't like the composition or the layout after I just get the tonal block in done, I just wipe it off and start over. That's just the way that I personally do it. And it also reduces the items I have in the bag. I do always take a palette knife with me to paint with. I personally use a palette knife more so to paint with rather than as a mixing tool. All right, so, oh, here's my small bottle. What I like about this simple backpack is it does have these little side pockets. It's small, it's lightweight, but it has a ton of little storage compartments. You can even like strap your tripod in here on these side straps or like your roll of paper towels if you need to. There's small compartments here if you have business cards or anything like that, Band-Aids, stuff like that, that you may want to include. Water bottle, of course, that's always good to take with you if you know you're going to be out a bit longer. And then the front pocket is typically where I carry things like my hand sanitizer that I've used to sanitize my hands and also to just clean paint off my hands as well. Baby wipes are another good option. For me too, sunscreen and bug spray. I just buy like a small travel size to keep in here. A small set of trash bags to collect my trash so that I don't leave anything and pollute anything while I'm out in nature. Just want to be respectful of people's space and make sure that I take care of that. Um, hey, there's my AirPod. I was wondering, I've, I've not been able to find that for like a week. Um, okay. So, and I like to really keep this set just kind of set and ready to go always. That way, anytime, so I kind of have a different set of supplies that are always ready to go in my studio for still life painting. But then I like to keep this set, loaded in my backpack. So the only thing that's pulling double duty for me is my tripod. Um, in my brushes, but it's a good idea to either you might even want to keep this in your vehicle. If you really want to encourage yourself to paint more and paint in plein air more, you might want to keep this in your vehicle or just keep this backpack, ready to go with its own supplies that you can just grab it and go and you have everything. Because if you're anything like me, like as you just saw, I have lost my AirPod pod charger for over a week. So if you're anything like me, you tend to forget things, you tend to misplace things. So that's just what I do for me so that I also don't have any hesitation or any excuse when the mood strikes, I'm ready to go. Now, what about colors? I would say the color palette that I use for plein air painting is very similar to landscape painting. However, I tend to really reduce it down, really simplify that palette even more. I tend to always use a titanium zinc white. This is by Permalva. You get a huge tube. It's a very affordable, and it works really, really well. I know it's not like a bougie brand that everybody is, you know, singing the praises of. This paint will totally make your paintings masterful, just like that. No, this is by Weber. This has been around for, gosh, probably more than a century. But I do like a titanium white, titanium zinc white, preferably, because whenever you're outdoors, um, you're going through a lot of white, and you tend to use more paint, even if you're using like a small painting like this, because you're kind of working a bit quicker than what you might be working indoors. So titanium zinc white. Let's see. And then a cadmium lemon. I prefer a cadmium lemon. Again, brands I like are like Winsor Newton, Gamblin, even Grumbacher, I think is decent brand. These are affordable brands. Of course, you can pretty much do anything. Don't skimp on the cadmiums though, okay? Um, and then really all of the cadmiums I take out with me. I think cad orange is more indispensable when it comes to landscape painting, even than the cad yellow deep. Okay, so if you want to minimize the cadmiums that you're taking, I would say grab cad orange and grab either cad yellow light or cad lemon, and you can, ditch the third cadmium. But I tend to I have all three at all times. Um, those are really going to get you some beautiful greens. Cad orange with white is going to get you some really beautiful peachy tones, especially if you're painting earlier in the morning or maybe at, the golden hour, which is typically in the afternoon or early evening. That's just really going to get you some beautiful peach tones. Um, and also it will desaturate greens really nicely, that cad orange. I pretty much always take Naples yellow with me. I know that this is not necessarily a common color for a lot of people to landscape paint with. However, I find it to be, I call this a cheater color because it saves so much mixing time. Raw sienna or yellow ochre, one of those two. It's just a really natural earth yellow. Okay, if I would say again, ultramarine blue or cobalt blue, but I always stick with ultramarine blue. And this is again just a good workhorse blue. I use it both in still life and in landscape painting outdoors. If you want to add, extra colors to your palette for outdoor painting or special colors, I would go for a green. Most of the year we're going to have lots of greens outdoors, green trees, green grass, things like that. Viridian is an excellent option. Again, you can get this from, Winsor Newton or Gamblin. This is actually a Winsor Newton alkyd, which I actually like using alkyds sometimes, just because they dry faster. But Viridian, again, is, I think, just a really good transparent green. It makes really beautiful shadow colors, cool greens. It'll also make really lovely warm greens, Viridian added with like a cadmium lemon or a cad yellow deep is going to make some nice warm greens. I'm sorry, cad yellow deep or cad orange is going to make some warm greens. Viridian with cad lemon is going to make a very cool light green, light yellow green. Now, if I had to choose between chromium oxide green and Viridian, I would probably choose Viridian just because it's going to give you a wider range of mixes, mixing both colors for the shadows. This also, Viridian makes really nice purples, kind of desaturated purples if you need those, if you add this with a red. I'm a little bit odd in the sense that I don't often take with me a cad red, but you could do a cad red light on your palette or even a burnt sienna. I tend to opt for alizarin crimson, which I know I don't know, no, I know that it seems strange, but I think most plein air painters are going to go for like a cad red light. I tend to go with Sennelier's alizarin crimson. This is not a permanent alizarin crimson. This is just such a beautiful alizarin crimson. I haven't found any other alizarin that really compares to the color quality. I can add this with my yellow ochre and white again for some nice peach tones. This with cad orange is going to make a beautiful warm glowy color. But again, if you want to add another color, I would say go for Cabinet Light. This color, this is again kind of a cheater color, I guess you might say. This is gonna save you some mixing time. However, I would strongly encourage everybody not to bypass the learning of mixing your colors. So this is basically, I think Sennelier, or sometimes it's called King's Blue. This one is from Charvan. I don't know if it's going to focus on that, but Royal Blue from Charvan. It's basically kind of the color of the sky. It's got white mixed in with it. But it's basically ultramarine blue and white, I believe is all this is. But it's just different somehow. It's different, but that's not a must-have, that's kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. Why are pleasures always considered guilty? I don't understand that. I don't feel guilty about it whatsoever. So that is my plein air painting kit. I think I have covered every little thing. Yes. So the last thing I wanted to leave you with was recommendations on books. If you're just getting started, these three books are the ones that really taught me the most and gave me my bearings. One is Problem Solving for Oil Painters by Greg Kreutz. And you might be thinking, wait, there's a still life on the cover. Yes. But there are so many landscape paintings in this book. And what I love about this too is that, he has interiors, he has landscapes, he has portraits in here, figures, he has still life. And what you really get from it is that all of the things that he's talking about and teaching, it's not genre specific. Right? So while there are some genre specific lessons in here that he goes over specifically for landscape, that's what I find is most beautiful about that book. And it's just very common sense, basic issues, the big issues that big traps can fall into as beginning artists. Or even advanced artists sometimes. The other two books, one is by Kevin McPherson called Fill Your Paintings with Light and Color. I'll have the link for you down below on that. So definitely check that out. That one was huge for me, especially on simplifying what I was seeing out in the landscape. He really shows you also very clearly the difference between light and shadow, if you're doing cool shadows and warm light or vice versa. He has so many really powerful visual illustrations in that book that will really just make those lessons stick with you, right? I know for me, I need to read, but I also need visual. I also need audio learning like this, like on YouTube, or on online lessons. So that book I highly recommend. And it also has really beautiful images in it too, and lots of good instruction. The other book is going to be a really oldie, but a goodie. And the main takeaway from this book is going to help you understand the different values, the different plane changes and the value changes between each plane in space whenever you're outdoor painting. And that is the book on landscape painting by John Carlson. I will have the link for you down below. Please keep in mind this book is so old and all of the images are in black and white. But that's actually good because the main lesson that you need to get from that book is understanding the different values of the different planes in landscape. Oh, I almost forgot to tell you the thing that I promised I would talk with you about at the end of this video, and that is go to places where you can get started plein air painting, feel safe and have it be easy and comfortable. So I would say the number one thing is just looking for public parks in your area. Also, usually places like historical societies or museum type of locations tend to be totally cool with you setting up and doing a little plein air painting, or if you have like a town square. But I would say first and foremost, just looking for parks. A lot of parks do have restrooms either nearby or at the park itself. And those would just be like typical neighborhood parks. The thing I would caution you against is feeling like you have to go somewhere super special, travel to do some grand, vista, some grand landscape. When you're first getting started, you really just want to find very simple scenes. And it's why a couple of the master classes I filmed for my online art life school, I choose like everyday simple scenes, whether that's a pond at a local park, or just a grouping of trees and clouds or something like that, to show everybody that it's not so much what you paint, it's how you paint it. So while going to, a mountain resort or going to a beach, location might be fun, it may be the thing that is holding you back from just getting started. So you just want to get going. So I would just say checking out local parks or like also state parks. I know here in Connecticut, as long as you have, a Connecticut license plate, you can get into all the state parks for free, which usually have even better facilities in terms of, bathroom usage and things like that. The other thing I would recommend that you do is look up plein air painting groups in your region. You might have a plein air painting group in your state or in your city, even depending on where you live, and join up with them. A lot of them have plein air painting dates that they host throughout the year, and then they've already done all of that heavy lifting work for you. Plus, you get to go and connect with new people, which, yes, I know, while sometimes might feel scary, is so good for us. It's so good for us to connect with other like-minded artists. They might be doing watercolor and you're doing oil, but still it's such a great way to meet people as well. And you might feel a bit safer if you are painting with a group instead of by yourself. So that's another good option. Another good option would be to look for, local farms or like pick your own or flower farms and things like that, and see if they would be okay with you coming and doing a little bit of painting on their property. Another option that you can consider would be to, if you do want to go somewhere kind of more picturesque, perhaps, than what you have available to you in your own backyard, which is such a great place, by the way, your front yard, your backyard. That's also such a great place. You have your bathroom there. You have all the conveniences there for you. So that's another great place. But if you want to go somewhere more picturesque, you could sign up for a plein air landscape painting workshop, get some teaching, and then that will also be in a group and they will have the spots picked out for you. Or you can go and maybe rent a hotel room or an Airbnb. I know one place I used to go to in Longmont, I would just rent a hotel room for the night and I would spend all day at, it was like a lake, a grouping of lakes. So that's another good option is lakes, lakes, ponds, rivers, somewhere that has parking though, and hopefully easier access for you where you don't have to hike very far to get there. But I used to do things like that. Of course, you can rent like an Airbnb if you want to find a location either near or far that has a very picturesque view that you feel really inspired to try to paint. But I would recommend that you hold off on doing something like that. I would say, signing up for a class if you're really procrastinating getting started plein air painting would be the best bet, because that will kind of force you to kind of show up and do the thing and give it your best shot, and you're going to get some good tips and good advice from the instructor. The last thing, if you really have a lot of initiative and if you have painting friends already, is just to set up your own plein air paint out. Whether that's people coming to your home or picking a park or a location, and sending out, creating a Facebook event or sending out an email to your friends to say, hey, let's get together and paint on this day and at this time. Let me know who's in. Pack your own lunch, or BYOB, bring your own booze, if you want to turn it into like a fun wine and sip. So we just have to make sure to not ever let fear stop us. There are so many ways that we can get creative, especially whenever we're avoiding or we're procrastinating and we're coming up with all of those reasons and excuses not to do something. Tap into that creative side, get innovative, and start to figure out, like, list, 1 through 10. Here's 10 ways that I can go and plein air paint this week. And just put the date on your calendar. Just decide that you're going to give it your best shot and expect that it's probably not going to go good for your first time. If it does, you're probably very lucky. But some of my first plein air painting experiences ended up being frisbeed out into the woods because they were so bad. So just know, like, everybody has to start somewhere, and whatever painting skills you have in the quiet of your own home studio, just know that those are going to be weaker whenever you go out into the field, because yes, you're dealing with the elements and there's perhaps you have new equipment, and there's just distractions. Hopefully, with everything that I gave you here, you'll be easily able to set up and get going. However, you still deal with, maybe people coming by trying to talk to you, and you might feel nervous about that. You still have to deal with perhaps bugs, and sun and wind and things of that nature. So just keep in mind that whatever skill set that you have may appear to be weaker your first time out of the gate. And so just watch out for that cognitive dissonance that says, like, I'm better than this. I thought I was better than this, which often makes us want to give up on something new. So just be aware that you will have to endure some discomfort, your first few handfuls of time out. But if you keep trying, you stay consistent with it, as long as, weather is permitting for you, you will get better. I promise you, you will grow, you will learn. If you get the books I've mentioned to you, or if you sign up for the Art Life School, you need to get the instruction needed to help you take into the field to grapple with painting and plein air. Okay, that is it for me, everybody. Let me know if you like this video in the comments below. Follow up with any questions if I forgot anything or if I didn't address anything. I will be replying to those questions. And if you are looking to improve your paintings, both still life and landscape, quickly and join an amazing art community, I invite you to join the Art Life School. In fact, in a couple of weeks from the date of this video coming out, we're actually going to have a live workshop on landscape painting, plein air painting. So I hope you will sign up and join us for that. If you're not ready to do that, check out all of the free courses I have for you listed down below. Oil painting for beginners is linked down there, and much, much more. So definitely check out the description box because there's so much there for you that's going to get you started. And if you're looking for even more information on materials or another painting video, check out the video I have coming up for you next. All right, happy painting and bye for now.